Howdy y'all, this is Wesor and welcome to another edition of Talking the Red. Now this is the first episode for Endwalker, so we do have quite a bit of ground to cover, but if you are joining us for the very first time, I play Kyra Vast on Balmung in the Crystal Data Center, and these videos are an opportunity to showcase my particular style of Red Mage play. Now, these are kind of half tutorials, half guides. We're going to watch along to a couple of videos in real time, and I'll kind of explain my thought process as we go on through. Now, these are not meant to be hardcore raid guides or anything like that. If you're already raiding Savage or, you're already parsing up in the 90s or something like that, these guides are probably not going to help you all that much. But if you're new to Red Mage or you're just trying to figure out particulars with a certain boss or anything like that, that's really what these videos are made for. As always, they're just my particular style of play as a high-end Red Mage on Crystal, but they're not necessarily meant to be, peak performance or anything like that. Now, since this is the first episode of Endwalker, just be aware that we are going to talk about the first two extreme trials. So this is your spoiler warning. If you have not reached the first two trials in the main story quest, this is your chance to bounce out and go watch something else, come back a little bit later when you are ready to tackle the extremes. Otherwise, a lot of ground to cover with all of the changes, so we'll go ahead and jump on in. So we are going to do EX1 first. Of course, that's going to be Zodiark. So we'll go ahead and get on in here, start the party, and place down our markers. So Red Mage, for the most part, hasn't changed a whole lot since Shadowbringers, but the few small changes that they made are pretty significant. So you'll notice right off the bat I can actually pop acceleration, but instead of giving me 3 procs, it's essentially acting as a swift cast now. Pretty cool. I know it's been kind of controversial. Some people like it, some people are still kind of getting used to it. Personally, I found that the acceleration and the modification changes that they've made really smooth out the job over the course of a 10-11 minute fight. There's a lot more variety to what you can do in any particular moment. Gives you a lot more kind of control over your procs. Some of these runs that I've been doing, I might only press Jolt 2 17, 18 times tops. It doesn't seem like it would be that significant. It almost feels like you're losing a proc with the acceleration change, but you'll notice throughout the course of this fight that with how fast the timer rolls around on those charges and how little you're able to use it and kind of control the game, it's actually a pretty significant difference. All right, so there we go into our new finisher there. So Zodiark in particular is pretty easy. I probably won't go over too much as far as the actual details of the boss because it really doesn't change all that much from normal other than just adding more of the same to it. Overall, in terms of entry level extremes, I think this one was actually quite a bit easier than Titanio overall. Much easier to clear in the long run. You just kind of follow the group and you'll probably be pretty good to go. Now there are a couple of specific points in here that we'll get to, and it's kind of interesting to see what they're going to be doing with the future of Savage raiding with what they've been doing with the extremes so far. It used to be that Red Mage really kind of lined up everything really well, but nowadays it seems like they're almost putting in mechanics that purposely try and bait you out of stuff like your melee combo and whatnot, which I think is kind of an interesting shift. We won't have to worry about it too much in the first half of the fight. For the most part, this is just going to be dodging stuff, but once we get to the transition here in a little bit, you'll notice it. Now, another big thing here is, of course, the modification change that gives us 50 mana right off the bat. You'll notice here that I actually use it after the first 3 steps of the melee combo. It's something that I've noticed quite a few high-end Red Mages doing. You probably don't necessarily have to do that for Party Finder, but it apparently does help out quite a bit if you're trying to line up buffs in a static group with the timing and everything like that, since they kind of made everything universal at 2 minutes. So if you see me popping modification after the first 3 steps of the melee combo, that's it. All right, so here's the first really tricky part of Zodiark. This is really where your DPS is going to be. It's going to be the make or break moment, essentially. The transition phases in both of the extreme trials are kind of long. They have some pretty long animation locks. You're going to end up losing quite a bit of DPS if you don't know what you're doing here. You can get pretty wild. Basically, as a raid mage, you're going to try and line up as much as you can within your finisher. You'll notice that I slid over there and tried to hit 2 orbs. You'll see me do it again on Hydaelyn a little bit later too. Yeah, there's all kinds of different trickery and that kind of thing that groups are trying to do to either delay the transition phase or burn through it as fast as possible. All of my groups were just party finder groups, just farming runs essentially for the cats, so no statics or anything like that. I don't know any of these guys that I'm running with, but yeah, again, you probably don't have to worry about it in party finder as much, but with statics you'll probably find, a few different methods to handle those transitions. All right, so we got the astral stars here. Astral eclipse. It feels really difficult when you're first doing it, but after you've done this 50 times or so, you're going to notice that he only has maybe 5 or 6 different patterns that he really goes through overall. So once you see the first eclipse, you can kind of get an idea of where you're going to be going for the other two. It just kind of becomes second nature, nothing you need to memorize or anything like that. It's just kind of something you pick up over the course of the fight. All right, so here we go, getting back into it. Now, you'll notice I saved my pot there. I don't think I meant to do that on purpose this time, but one of the cool things with what has changed with Red Mage is that you have a lot of options in terms of, when you want to use things. There's a lot more thought that goes into, saving your modification versus not, when to use your potion, how to line things up. There's a lot more variance and a lot more, I guess you could say, freedom of choice in it, which I feel is pretty nice. This fight in particular, you'll notice it again in the second astral eclipse, but again, there's a lot of abilities that are kind of there to kind of bait you into trying to do something, and then it kind of throws you in another direction. You end up, halfway through your melee combo, and then he becomes untargetable, little things like that. So the nice thing with the modification change is that you can really kind of use it whenever you think is going to be the best. Some cases I might use it after the first 3 abilities of the combo. Other times I might just start out with it. It really kind of comes down to knowing the fight ahead of time and just kind of memorizing things, using your best judgment at any given time, which is kind of interesting. I don't really remember having that much choice in Shadowbringers in terms of when I decided to use certain abilities. Here, it's really going to come down to your static, your party finder group, how fast people are burning down the transitions, all of that kind of stuff. Very, very different from what I remember in the past. All right, so here we've got the Trimorphous. It's going to be the 3. If you are going to be doing like hardcore parsing or something like that, trying to do the rankings, there is a lot of RNG that's going to be involved with this. Placement of the triple casts here, your star alignment, little things like that. Here you'll see the first example of the bait method that I was talking about. If you try doing the melee combo at the start of Astral Eclipse, you're not going to be able to fit it in. Your combo is quite a bit longer nowadays. So yeah, this would be a situation where I decide, okay, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and hold it instead of trying to burn through it all. All right. Plus, saving your melee combo for here gives you a lot of freedom of movement. You can fit the first 3 in, and then boom, you've got 3 movement abilities that you don't have to stand and cast for. So yeah, saving your melee combo for after he is done with the Eclipse actually turns out to be pretty good in terms of movement. All right. And again, you just kind of move around, memorize memorize what everything does, and you're pretty much good to go. One thing that I do like about these fights quite a bit is they really got me to love Magic Barrier. It's a move that I kind of ignored for most of the MSQ if you watched my my live playthrough of it. But Magic Berry is really, really good on most of these fights so far. For Zodiark, I've been using it mostly during Styx, which is the Akmorn effect. For Hydaelyn here in a little bit, you'll see I mostly use it for Shining Saber, but she has so much raid AoE going out. Magic Berry you can kind of use whenever. It's not just a damage down, it also increases healing. So yeah, in a case like this, perfect time to use your Magic Barrier. And then Ad'll I kind of throw in anytime I think, you know, there's going to be some raid-wide damage going out. But yeah, we were really burning through this, so not a whole lot to talk about with Zodiark. Again, it's a pretty easy fight. If you've done the normal, you know all of the mechanics, he just kind of combines them in different ways. It really just comes down to memorizing how the rotations handle, you know. But yeah, so that's kind of a basic overview of, you know, some of the ability changes and whatnot. Hydaelyn will be a little bit more fight specific, so let's go ahead and get on in there and take a look. Again, this is just a party finder group, so we don't have, you know, static strats or anything weird with the crystals or whatnot. So of course you're going to get in, split into your light parties. With Red Mage, you want to be in one as much as possible. If you're in Party Finder, not likely to happen, because it's usually going to be 2-2 and, you know, all of that. This one we lucked out into having 3 range, so I got to be in Party 1 for it, but that will come into play later with the Chakram. So yeah, one is definitely preferred, but you'll be okay if you go back into 2 as well. It's, again, a situation where you might decide to hold on certain things and whatnot. All right, yeah, once again, I usually open with my acceleration. Other red mages might do a precast. It's really kind of personal preference. I like doing my pre-pot instead of trying to fit it into my later cast once the fight has actually started. I feel like it lines up my embolden buffs a little bit better from like the really peak groups that I've done. But again, you can kind of play around, see what works best for you and your own personal setup. But yeah, I usually start with the acceleration on my fights. All right, so you got Shining Saber. You'll notice I popped the Magic Barrier there. All right, and then here's where you can go ahead and start pre-moving. Hydaelyn always will switch back and forth between her crystallizes, so whatever one she does the first time, she's going to do the opposite the second. That's going to help you a lot when you're trying to pre-move here. So we did have a little bit of the uptime strat here. Having red for your first one helps out quite a bit as red mage, since you can go ahead and jump right in here into your combo, not have to worry about too much movement. All right, you always do water for the first one and then ice for the second. The only thing that changes is the AoE that goes out. All right, and then you got the lateral Oriole, so don't have to move much there. We really kind of lucked out with this one. Laterals always forward and back. The normal Orioles, it took me a long time to kind of remember that the hitboxes have arrows now, so you see the little red arrow in the red circle there. That is your Oriole marker when she's doing the side-to-side one. So kind of keep that in mind. Took me a long time to remember that's a thing, but that is your marker for it. All right, so you get Magos's Radius, pop my Ad'l there, and go back into the combo. So not a whole lot crazy with this this first part of the fight. She does kind of have another bait here. Some red mages, depending on where you're at on your combo and if you're getting lucky with your procs or whatnot, you might be able to fit in another melee combo here. But it's pretty rare. I'd say it happens maybe 20% of the time with me. In this case, it would not be able to do it. You cannot fit in a combo right here. Don't use your modification because she's going to transition right into the crystals, so you're not going to be able to fit all of it in. I usually hold my embolden for this phase, and same with the modification. That way I can just burn through the crystals as fast as possible. I don't usually have a preference as far as which crystal to go with. Kind of depends on the group. I usually just start popping one as soon as they pop up, and then I'll move over to whichever ones have the light open and up. Main thing with this phase is just don't stop casting. It's Same thing as the normal fight, but a lot of people wait for the lights to show up on which crystals you should be attacking. It's okay to pop one a couple of times before they start focusing. It's easy enough to switch. You know, do that while you're in your cooldown, right? All right, and everyone had the same idea I had on that. Started moving a little bit earlier, so it's kind of a janky crystal phase. You know, it's kind of whatever. You're going to run into that with Party Finder. Most statics might have their own particular methods for it. Some will delay attacking the last crystal so they can burn the boss down a little bit more, get more damage on those guys. There's a lot of different methods you can do it, but yeah. Only thing I can really say about it is just don't stop casting as much as possible. Do your best. You'll notice that I did try and line up my finisher to hit 2 crystals. You definitely can do that. If you have enough time to fit in a melee combo on the last crystal, you can actually pop both the crystal and the adds with your finisher, which is kind of nice. Resolution, I think it's called. I haven't memorized all the new names yet. There we go. So again, this is another situation that's going to feel like it's trying to bait you. So you're going to have enough time to do a melee combo here. And you'll notice that I have my modification up. However, I am not going to use my modification on this first combo. And the reason is I want to use it for light waves. Timing is going to be kind of weird on this particular one, but my best runs, it tends to go pretty smoothly. So here we've got it. Pop my potion there, and this is, once the light waves start, this is when I'm going to be able to use my modification, right? If you do have enough time based on the crystal phase to get an early melee combo in, don't use your modification until this actually starts. All right. Sometimes you'll get lucky with uptime and she'll pop the DPS first, and then you can actually jump in there a little bit faster than I did here for your second melee combo. But yeah, always try and line up your modification with your potions and whatnot if you know those are going to be coming up pretty soon. That's the main reason I hold off on that phase. After the transition and whatnot, it's kind of an odd time with most Party Finder groups when you're going to have your potion up. So yeah, I usually hold my modification for when I know my pot's coming up here in a few seconds. All right, so it got through the light waves just fine. It's honestly not too bad once you know what it does. The second light waves tend to give people the most problems, believe it or not, especially in Party Finder. All right, so go ahead, and this is just a burn phase, nothing super difficult. And probably save my magic barrier, yeah, right here for the shining saber. Oh hey, yeah, there we go. It's okay. I mean, I missed the point of the damage debuff, but I used it to get the healing back up, since again it gives the heal buff there. Little unlucky with the green, kind of forcing me out right as my combo was coming up, but that's all right. We made do. All right. And you'll notice throughout these fights how I'm bouncing back and forth with my acceleration. You know, I don't know if people have done the numbers crunching to try and figure out if it's, you know, a slight increase or something like that to just use it on cooldown or whatever. I just like the control of being able to use it. Specifically for fishing, I'll use my swift cast for, you know, on cooldown if I feel like I want the DPS increase. So far I've got a 96 on this fight, so I'm not particularly worried about, you know, what the number crunchers are saying on this one. But, you know, if that's something you're interested in, or, you know, just really want to peak min-max or something like that, might be something interesting to look up. There we go. We're going to be entering the second light waves here in a moment. Oh wait, chakrams first, yeah. Chakrams is always, it's kind of tricky, really no matter which group you've got. On its surface, it's really not too bad. It's really just one of those mechanics where you're kind of reliant on everyone else in the group knowing what they're doing for positioning and whatnot. In this case, we were lucky enough to have a scholar to help us with the movement and whatnot, so that was really nice. If you can get a scholar in, that makes things a lot easier with a lot of these phases coming through. All right, and don't forget the Oriole there immediately afterwards. There you go. Hardest part with this fight that I've noticed is just positioning more than anything. It gets turned around all kinds of places, so when she's doing the cross maneuver and whatnot, it can get kind of weird trying to figure out where she's pointing on the fly. But again, just pay attention to those arrows on her targeting reticle, right? All right, so now we've got the light waves, and again, this is really, in my opinion, the hardest part of the fight. Just because, again, it is so reliant on everyone knowing what they're doing. You know, whoever's running to the corners knowing that they're in the right position. I get a lot of party finder groups that whoever's in charge of placing us where we need to go ends up placing us, you know, right in the line of sight of one of the light waves. And then this part in particular, it is so easy in party finder groups to end up getting stacked on top of each other. You know, theoretically, you'd want to make clock positions or something like that if you could, but good luck getting that done in party finder groups. I very rarely see people set clocks for PF. And yeah, we were burning her down pretty fast, so this ended up going quite a bit faster than I expected when I was doing the recording. But it was a solid group. But yeah, she'll do the light waves again, and that's really the fight. Nothing super complicated with it. Once you memorize the move order of everything. Again, they're both fights where it's really just a matter of memorizing what each move does and then just kind of adjusting when you see it. But yeah, I really enjoyed both of these fights, and they do have me very, very curious for what's going to be happening with the Savages coming up in a week or so. So yeah, that's the first episode of Talking the Red. Hopefully, kind of gave you some visuals to go along with the talk through. As always, if you guys have any questions or anything like that, feel free to make comments down below. I will hopefully be joining with the Static in Savages next week. I think that's when they open, anyways. So expect some videos of those coming out once we get them down. We'll see how that goes if you guys have been watching our T-Prog. But yeah, thanks a ton for watching. I'm really loving Red Mage so far. Again, I just feel like it has a lot more control, this expansion. Just a lot more variety in what you can do at any given time. And it just really kind of smoothed out everything in Endwalker compared to the past. Not huge changes, but significant changes, if that makes sense. Again, if you guys want to see future videos and whatnot, make sure and like and subscribe. I'll be posting them as I make them and doing some streams along the way. Thanks a ton for watching, everyone, and you guys have a good one.